Tom in Oregon. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys today?
Pretty good.
Doing all right.
I'm calling off the cuff here, so you might want to eventually delete me or somewhere along.
Oh no, you're gonna be recorded for posterity forever.
Well, that's okay, but you may want to kick me off. I'm not super prepared. I just caught you online, and I got a couple, maybe two.
No,
questions.
it's okay. I mean, I know it looks like we're about to we're just out to show people up, but I mean, we really like to have conversations with people about what they think, and you know, it's always interesting. So, what's on your mind?
Well, I've been struggling, like a lot of Christian theists, with the new atheism's definition of itself.
Okay.
How they're not a worldview. Or a belief system. Is that true?
I think maybe what you're struggling with is the way that Christian literature tries to characterize atheists. And I think maybe the problem could be that that you have some preconceptions about what atheists should think, and they don't square with what a lot of atheists say they do think. Is that fair to say?
Maybe. You know, I only dialogue online. Well, not all the time, but mostly dialogue online. And my assumption, I guess you could say, is that atheism makes a truth claim, right?
It's complicated, as they say on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
Struggle lies.
Right. I think where we come from, and you know, I think it's very hard to speak for all atheists, just as you'd probably agree. It's impossible to speak for all religious believers, because you can only represent your own point of view. But what I think that a lot of people who appear on this show would agree on is that a lot of the time, society and culture assumes that the default position is believing in God, and that you have to believe in God because that's the only way to make sense of the universe, and you have to believe in God because that's the only way to understand the difference between right and wrong. And the only real position that atheism takes is, I don't think that's true. I don't accept the mainstream assumption that God has to exist. And people have various reasons for not accepting it, but I think the main thing that atheists all have in common is that they don't have that as a premise.
Just in it seems to me that definition, I guess what you just used, is kind of a cop-out that keeps the new atheist or atheism from having to defend itself, especially with the claim there is no God.
Right, but I think that you're assuming when you say defend itself that you think that atheists are 100% certain or positive that there is provably no God, and we just don't think that. At least I don't.
Yeah, so it also kind of assumes that all atheists make that claim, which isn't the case either. Like for myself, I currently have no belief in a deity, but I don't hold the position that there is no God, because that would have a burden of proof that's associated with it, and I haven't substantiated that enough to actually hold that belief. And so I currently I'm at the point to where I say I currently have no belief in a deity, but I'm always open to some concrete, verifiable evidence that may change that position, either to say that, oh yeah, there totally is no God, or hey, guess what, there totally is over here.
Right. I mean, although to be fair, I mean, if you pressed me in casual conversation and you said, hey Russell, is there a God? I would probably say, nah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say, no, definitely not. But I would say, nah, don't think so. And so I mean, that's about as certain as I get. I think, you know, my experience with the world and my investigation into religion has led me to take pretty seriously the rejection of that religion.
I would say you're probably in the 90 percentile there on that. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think?
Right.
Well, I guess somewhere along in my reading online for the last couple of days, something caught my eye about the systemization of atheism. That it actually has a system, philosophical system, what appears to be an epistemology and an ontological philosophy. Is that fair to say, you think?
I think there is something to that. I mean, I would not agree that atheism has a systematic, like universal position, but I think that if you look at atheists as a whole, what you'd find is a lot of atheists don't just have the opinion on the one thing that God does not exist, or not believe that God does exist, depending on how definite you want to get. But atheists in general tend to take a different approach to knowledge and understanding things than people who are believers. Because what I've heard a lot of Christians say is that faith in itself is a good thing, and that if you can have confident certainty in things that you have no proof for, that's kind of a sign that you're a sort of a strong and confident person. Whereas with a lot of atheists I know, and I think maybe this highlights the kind of difference you're talking about, we take a much more conditional view, which is kind of in line with the way that the scientific method approaches understanding things. Basically saying nobody knows everything. A lot of people claim to know things that they have no good reason to know. And the best way to approach this is basically with skepticism. And so a lot of people who come from a Christian background would feel very comfortable with the idea that they just don't know a thing, and would scramble to find a position where they can say, oh yeah, that's probably true, and if it's not, then I have faith in this. Whereas if you take a more skeptical mindset, you are more likely to say something like, I don't know this thing, and I'm comfortable just continuing to admit that I don't know it until I get enough information to be more certain about it.
But also, what kind of comes with that, not every atheist is unique in their own right. They might not necessarily have that position as far as looking at evidence that way. People come to atheism by different methods, by different reasons. It may or may not be reasonable or rational how they arrived at that belief. And so it's hard to say that, oh, there's a blanket frame of thought that atheists have, and that if you're an atheist, then you have this frame of thought. So you think about evidence in this way, and you're critical and skeptical about new information in this way, and you want to critically evaluate it. I can't say that that's the definition of all atheists, because people are unique. For me, atheism, an atheist defines one question and answers one particular question about, do I have a belief in a deity or deities? And that's no, and so I identify as atheist. But beyond that, that doesn't describe anything more about how I look at the world, how I approach the world, how I look at evidence. I have other tools and methods, like Russell was talking about, the tools of science, the way I interact with other people. I identify as humanist, and that's the framework that I kind of reside in for that side. That's how I evaluate my position in the world relative to others. That's how I interact with each other. That's how I find my meaning and purpose for my life, is using those ideals that are separate from the label of atheist to make my reality around me, to basically to define myself. It's not through atheism. That's one component, but that doesn't tell you anything else about me. To learn anything else, you would have to ask me some more questions.
Well, now, Phil, I guess that's where my struggle lies. I think maybe a lot of Christian theists also struggle with this, too. Mm-hmm. I've seen a video William Lane Craig has on this very issue here, and sometimes it's kind of exasperating because everything you just said, Phil. You're a naturalist. Or you believe in scientific empiricism. Don't want to put words in your mouth. But all these seem to fit with a system of thought that is indicative of the new atheism. And so it seems like that the burden of proof does lie on the atheists, because they do have these things that seem to be a part of what makes up who they are: naturalism, scientific empiricism. There's absolutely no reality except materialism.
Right.
I have to cough up some evidence for some of that, and I think, Phil, you said also that some people say that what you believe seems kind of crazy. Did you say that?
No, I didn't actually.
I thought you said something similar to that, but that would make it.
I don't think Phil would say something like that. Actually,
I think he said that some of what we think is what you believe is crazy.
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, I'm sorry about that.
But no problem.
In your mouth, but I think it was. I get you guys mixed up a little bit, but I think it was Russell that said something about faith being involved with the theist. But it seems like faith is what's involved with everything we do to some extent, including the new atheism. That's kind of where I was going with all this.
I think what you're describing as faith is basically having to, I would characterize instead as having to make a decision based on limited information. Like a little earlier in the show today, we were talking about probabilities. And like if you have a six-sided die, can you know that you're rolling a 1 through 5? You can't, but you can have a certain level of confidence in the outcome, which varies according to what you're dealing with. And I think that when you say everything is based on faith, what you're actually saying is that things are based on imperfect or incomplete information. And I think the core difference we're looking at is not whether we acknowledge that we are lacking information, but sort of the relative value that we place on the ability to have certainty in the face of doubt. Because I think that you would say that having more confidence without complete knowledge is a good thing. And I would say that we should be able to make decisions without knowing everything, but it's best to minimize the space where we don't know stuff as much as possible.
And also, sorry, kind of to tell on there, you said that just a second ago that we use faith all the time, every day, but what specifically is your definition of faith that you're using there?
Well, Hebrews 11:1, for example, is faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
I believe in a God because there's evidence that is very credible that is good to show that God exists. For example, and let's just be simple here. The universe has order and design in the universe, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, not right. I was going to say that we're starting a brand new line of argument, which, of course, we've talked about before, but we're actually running out of time on the show.
How about that?
So this may not be a good time to get into that, but I mean, you are the kind of caller that we like to have, and I hope that you will call back another week, okay?
I hope so. I didn't even notice that.
I might be able to. I'm a preacher, so I get pretty tired on Sunday afternoons.
Gotcha.
I understand, but feel free to call back some other time because
sure.
I or Matt would love to continue this conversation. Okay?
All right. See you later.
All right,
Tom. Take care.
See you later, Tom.